Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm here with another session of Reddit stories in Minecraft because, honestly, there's something so perfect about building in a peaceful world while diving into the absolute chaos that strangers post online about their lives. So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into some stories that'll either restore your faith in humanity or completely destroy it. I'm honestly not sure which way these are going to go, but that's half the fun, right? Alright, first story here, and this one's titled "My Girlfriend Broke Up With Me Because I Wouldn't Propose After She Faked a Pregnancy Test." So this happened about 3 weeks ago, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole situation. I've been with Sarah for almost 2 years now, and things have been pretty solid. Or so I thought. We moved in together about 8 months ago, and everything seemed to be going really well until this mess happened. About a month ago, Sarah started acting weird. She was being super secretive with her phone, which wasn't like her at all, and she kept making these random comments about our future together. Like she'd say things like, "Imagine if we had a little one running around here," or "Wouldn't it be nice to have a family before we're 30? I thought she was just daydreaming, the way couples do when they're getting serious. Then one Tuesday morning I woke up and she was sitting on the edge of the bed, crying. I immediately freaked out thinking something terrible had happened. She handed me what looked like a pregnancy test with 2 pink lines and said, "We need to talk." My heart basically stopped. I mean, we've talked about kids before, but always in the someday sense, not the holy crap. This is happening right now. Sense, I'll be honest. My first reaction wasn't pure joy. I was terrified. We're both 26, and while we're doing okay financially, a baby would change everything. I asked her if she was sure, and she said she'd taken 3 tests, and they were all positive. She seemed really emotional about it, which I thought was normal given the circumstances. Over the next few days, I started warming up to the idea. I mean, it wasn't planned, but we love each other, and we could make it work. I started looking at our budget, thinking about how we'd need to move to a bigger place. Maybe start looking at cribs and baby stuff. Sarah seemed happy that I was getting excited about it, and we spent hours talking about names and what kind of parents we wanted to be. But then she started dropping hints about marriage. Like really obvious hints. She'd bring up her friend Emma's engagement ring, or mention how her cousin just got married before their baby was born. At first, I thought she was just feeling insecure about having a baby without being married, which I could understand. But then the hints became less subtle. She started sending me links to engagement rings and wedding venues. She even made a Pinterest board called Our Future. It was just full of wedding stuff. When I didn't immediately start planning a proposal, she got frustrated. She said things like, "Don't you want to make this official? And I thought you'd want to marry me before the baby comes." I told her that yes, I wanted to marry her someday, but I wanted to do it because we both felt ready. Not because we felt pressured by a pregnancy. I said I didn't want our engagement to feel like something we had to do instead of something we chose to do. She did not take that well. The fighting started getting worse. She accused me of not being committed to our relationship and said that if I really loved her, I would want to lock it down before the baby arrived. I tried explaining that my hesitation had nothing to do with how much I loved her, and everything to do with wanting our engagement to be special and meaningful, not rushed. Things came to a head last week, when I came home from work and found her crying on the couch again. She said she had something to tell me, and that she was sorry. I immediately thought something was wrong with the pregnancy. My mind went to the worst places, but what she told me was somehow even more shocking. She admitted that she had never been pregnant at all. She said she bought fake pregnancy tests online and had been lying to me for weeks. She said she did it because she was afraid I was never going to propose, and she thought if I believed she was pregnant, I would finally step up and commit to our future. I was completely speechless. I didn't even know fake pregnancy tests were a thing you could buy. I felt like my entire world had been turned upside down. For weeks I had been planning our life with a baby, adjusting my expectations and getting excited about becoming a father. All of that was based on a lie. I asked her why she would do something so cruel and manipulative. She said she panicked because her sister just got engaged and all her friends are getting married, and she felt like we were falling behind, and she said she loves me and wants to spend her life with me, but she was scared I was just going to string her along forever. I told her that what she did was beyond messed up, and that I needed time to think. She begged me not to leave, and promised she would never lie to me again. But honestly, the trust was completely broken. How do you come back from something like that? How do you build a future with someone who would manipulate you in such a fundamental way? I stayed at my friend Mike's place for a few days to clear my head. When I came back to get some clothes, Sarah had apparently told everyone we know that we broke up because I abandoned her when she miscarried. She painted me as this heartless guy who couldn't handle the thought of being a father and left her during her time of need. I was furious. I called her and told her she needed to tell people the truth. She said she was too embarrassed and that it would be easier for everyone if they just thought we broke up because of the miscarriage. I couldn't believe she was doubling down on the lies even after everything blew up. So now I'm dealing with friends and family thinking I'm some kind of monster who left his girlfriend during a pregnancy loss. Meanwhile, the real story is that she faked the whole thing to manipulate me into proposing I've told a few close friends the truth. But most people still believe her version of events. I ended up moving out completely last week, and we're officially done. But I'm still processing everything that happened. Part of me wonders if I should have just proposed. Maybe if I had been more decisive about our future, she wouldn't have felt the need to lie. But then I remember that what she did was calculated and cruel, and I realise I dodged a bullet. The worst part is that I really did love her, and I probably would have proposed eventually. But now, I'll never know if she actually loved me or if she just loved the idea of being engaged. I keep thinking about all the conversations we had about the fake pregnancy and how genuine her emotions seemed. She's either an incredible actress or she somehow convinced herself that what she was doing was okay. My friends keep telling me I should be grateful that I found out who she really is before I married her, and they're probably right. But it's hard not to feel like I wasted 2 years of my life with someone who turned out to be completely different from who I thought she was. I guess I'm just sharing this because I needed to get it off my chest and maybe warn other people that this kind of manipulation exists. I never would have imagined someone would fake a pregnancy to get a proposal, but apparently it happens. The fake tests look incredibly real, and if you're not expecting it, you'd never question it. I'm trying to move forward and focus on myself, but it's been really difficult. Some days I feel angry and betrayed, and other days I just feel sad about what we could have had if she had just been honest with me. I know I'll be okay eventually, but right now everything still feels pretty raw. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? I feel like such an idiot for falling for it, but at the same time, how are you supposed to suspect that your girlfriend is faking a pregnancy? It's not exactly something you think to verify. Anyway, that's my story. Thanks for reading, if you made it this far. I know it's a lot, but I needed to tell someone who wasn't going to judge me for not immediately proposing when I thought she was pregnant. Wow, okay. That is absolutely wild. I mean, the level of deception here is honestly staggering. Like, faking a pregnancy is not some small white lie. That's a massive, elaborate scheme that requires planning and commitment to the deception. And then when it all falls apart, she doubles down by telling everyone he abandoned her during a miscarriage. That's just pure evil at that point. I feel terrible for this guy because you can tell he really loved her and was trying to do the right thing. He didn't want to propose just because of a pregnancy, which actually shows maturity and respect for the relationship, but she completely violated his trust in the worst possible way. The fact that you can actually buy fake pregnancy tests online is terrifying to me. Like, what kind of world are we living in where that's a product that exists? I'm genuinely disturbed by that. This story makes me so angry because she's not just manipulating him, she's potentially ruining his reputation with friends and family who think he's a deadbeat. And recovery from something like this has got to be incredibly difficult. Because how do you ever trust someone again after being deceived on this level? I hope this guy realizes he absolutely dodged a bullet here. Because if she was willing to fake a pregnancy to get what she wanted, imagine what other lies she would have told throughout their marriage. This is sociopathic behaviour, and he's lucky he found out before legally binding himself to this person. Alright, moving on to the next story. And this one's called My Mother-in-Law Announced My Pregnancy at Her Birthday Party before I could tell my own parents. This happened 2 months ago, and I'm still furious about it, but my husband thinks I should just let it go. Since his mum was excited, I'm hoping some outside perspective can help me figure out if I'm overreacting or if I have every right to be upset. So I found out I was pregnant in early January, and my husband and I were over the moon. It's our first baby, and we've been trying for about a year. We decided we wanted to wait until after the first trimester to start telling people. Since we knew the risks and wanted to be cautious, the only person we told was my mother-in-law, Linda, because she has a key to our house. And I was worried she'd notice if I was acting sick or weird when she came over. We specifically asked her to keep it between us until we were ready to share the news. She seemed to understand and promised she wouldn't say anything. Everything was going well until Linda's 60th birthday party in February. My parents flew in from Oregon specifically for this party, since they're close with Linda and my father-in-law. The whole extended family was there, plus a bunch of family friends. It was a big celebration. I was about 11 weeks pregnant at the time, so still being very careful about what I ate and drank. I was trying to be discreet about avoiding alcohol and certain foods, but I thought I was doing a good job of not drawing attention to it. About halfway through the party, Linda asked everyone to gather around so she could make a speech. I thought she was just going to thank everyone for coming and maybe share some memories from the past year. Instead, she started talking about how blessed she felt to have such a wonderful family and how excited she was about all the new adventures coming up. Then she said the words that made my blood run cold. She said this year is going to be extra special because I'm going to be a grandmother. My husband and daughter-in-law are expecting their first baby. Everyone erupted in cheers and congratulations while I stood there in complete shock. My parents were standing right next to me, and I watched their faces go from confusion to hurt to anger in real time. My mum grabbed my arm and whispered, "Is this true?" And I just nodded, because what else could I do? The damage was already done. The rest of the party was a blur of people congratulating us and asking questions about due dates and baby names. I tried to smile and be gracious, but inside I was dying. My parents barely spoke to me for the rest of the evening, and I could tell they were devastated that they had to find out this way. When we got home that night, I completely lost it. I was crying and screaming at my husband about how his mother had ruined what should have been a special moment for us. He tried to calm me down and said that Linda was just excited and didn't mean any harm, but I felt like that was such a cop-out. I told him that we had specifically asked her not to tell anyone, and she had promised to respect our wishes. The fact that she chose to announce it at her own birthday party in front of my parents made it even worse. It felt like she was making our news about her. My husband said I was being too emotional and that pregnancy hormones were making me overreact. He said his mum had been trying to have grandkids for years and she just got carried away in the moment. But I don't think that's an excuse for breaking our trust. The next day, my mum called me crying. She said she felt like I didn't trust her enough to share the news with her, and that finding out at a party with a bunch of strangers was humiliating. She said she had always imagined being one of the first people I told when I got pregnant, and that Linda had stolen that moment from her. I tried to explain that we were planning to tell her the following week, when we hit the 12-week mark, but she said it didn't matter because the moment was already ruined. My dad was hurt too, but he was more angry than sad. He said Linda had no right to share our personal news and that it was completely inappropriate. I called Linda to confront her about what she had done. She acted like she didn't understand why I was upset. She said she thought everyone already knew and that she was just so excited she couldn't help herself. When I reminded her that we had specifically asked her to keep it secret, she said she forgot about that. I don't buy that for a second. There's no way you forget a conversation like that, especially when it happened. Just a few weeks earlier, I think she deliberately chose to announce it because she wanted to be the one to share the news, and she wanted the attention at her party. My husband is still taking his mother's side and saying I need to forgive and forget. He says that holding on to anger isn't good for the baby and that Linda didn't mean to hurt anyone. But I can't just pretend this didn't happen. Her actions had real consequences. My relationship with my parents has been strained ever since. They keep saying they're happy about the baby, but I can tell they're still hurt about how they found out. My mum has made several comments about how she hopes she'll be more involved in future grandchildren's lives, which makes me feel terrible. I'm also worried about what this means for boundaries going forward. If Linda was willing to break our trust about something this important, what else might she share without our permission? What happens when the baby is born and we want to control how information gets shared? My husband thinks I should apologise to his mother for being cold to her since the party, but I don't think I owe her an apology. She's the one who betrayed our trust and caused this whole mess. If anyone should be apologising, it should be her. I've been avoiding family gatherings because I don't want to deal with Linda right now, but that's causing more tension with my husband. He says I'm being petty and that I need to think about what's best for our family, but I feel like I am thinking about what's best for our family by setting boundaries. The pregnancy is going well and we're both healthy, but this whole situation has put a dark cloud over what should be a happy time. I keep thinking about how excited my parents would have been if we had gotten to tell them ourselves, and how special that moment could have been. I know some people might think I'm overreacting since the news was going to come out eventually anyway. But it's not about the information itself, it's about respecting our wishes and letting us share our own news in our own time. That's not too much to ask. Am I wrong to still be upset about this? Should I just let it go and try to move forward? Or do I have a right to maintain boundaries with Linda? I love my husband, but I feel like he's not supporting me when I need him most. This story makes me absolutely livid on behalf of this woman. Like I cannot imagine the betrayal and embarrassment she must have felt in that moment. Your mother-in-law literally stole one of the most special announcements you'll ever make and turned it into her moment at her party. The fact that the husband is taking his mother's side is what really gets me. This is supposed to be your partner who has your back, especially when your boundaries have been completely trampled, but instead he's gaslighting her by saying she's being too emotional and blaming pregnancy hormones. That's disgusting. And Linda saying she forgot about their conversation is such obvious bull. Nobody forgets being asked to keep a pregnancy secret. That's not something that slips your mind. She absolutely did this on purpose because she wanted to be the star of her own birthday party. The damage to the relationship with her parents is heartbreaking too. They flew in for this party and had to find out about their first grandchild in front of a room full of strangers. That's humiliating and hurtful, and those are feelings that don't just go away. I'm honestly questioning whether this marriage is going to work, because if he can't support her on something this clear-cut, then what happens when there are bigger issues? This is a massive red flag about how he handles conflict and whose side he'll choose. This woman needs to stand her ground and demand a real apology from Linda, and her husband needs to grow a spine and support his wife instead of enabling his mother's boundary-stomping behaviour. This is just the beginning if they don't address it now. The third story here is titled "My Best Friend is Marrying My Ex and Asked Me to Be the Maid of Honour." This is probably going to sound like something out of a soap opera, but I swear this is my actual life right now. My best friend since childhood, Jessica, is getting married to my ex-boyfriend, Marcus, and she wants me to be her maid of honour. I honestly don't know what to do. So, some background: Jessica and I have been best friends since we were like 7 years old. We did everything together. Sleepovers, birthday parties, we were each other's person, through high school and college. When we both moved to the same city after graduation, it felt like fate. We were going to be those friends who stayed close forever. I dated Marcus for about 3 years during college. We met sophomore year, and things were pretty serious for a while. We talked about marriage and moving in together after graduation, but ultimately, we wanted different things. He wanted to stay in our college town and take over his dad's business. I wanted to move to a bigger city and pursue my career. We broke up amicably and stayed friends. After the breakup, I moved to Chicago and Marcus stayed back home. Jessica also ended up staying in our hometown for work, so she and Marcus were still in the same social circle. I was totally fine with this since we had all been friends in college anyway. About a year after Marcus and I broke up, Jessica started mentioning him more in our phone calls. She'd say things like, "Oh, Marcus was at the bar last night," or "Marcus helped me move my couch." At first I thought nothing of it. They were just friends hanging out. Then about 6 months later, she called me and said she had something important to tell me. She said she and Marcus had been spending a lot of time together and that they had developed feelings for each other. She wanted to ask my permission before they started dating officially. I was honestly shocked. I mean, I knew they were friends, but I had no idea. Anything romantic was developing. I told her I needed some time to think about it, which she said she understood. But then she added that they had already been on a few dates and that things were getting serious. I felt really hurt that she had already started dating him before talking to me about it. If she really cared about my feelings, she would have asked me before anything happened, not after they were already involved. But I also didn't want to be the bitter ex who tried to control who people could date. I told her that while it was weird for me, I wouldn't stand in the way of their happiness. I said I just needed some time to adjust to the idea, and that I hoped they would be understanding if things felt awkward for me. At first, she promised they would take things slow and be sensitive to my feelings. That was 2 years ago. They've been together ever since, and honestly, they seem really happy together. I've gotten used to seeing them as a couple, and I've moved on completely. I'm actually dating someone new now, and I'm really happy. But last month, Jessica called me with another bombshell. Marcus proposed, and she said yes. She was crying happy tears and going on about how perfect the proposal was and how excited she was to plan the wedding. I congratulated her and tried to sound enthusiastic even though it felt surreal. Then she said she had something important to ask me. She said that even though the situation was complicated, I was still her best friend, and she couldn't imagine getting married without me by her side. She asked if I would be her maid of honor. I was completely speechless. I mean, what do you even say to that? On one hand, Jessica has been my best friend for over 20 years, and I do want to support her on her wedding day. On the other hand, the idea of standing up there watching her marry my ex-boyfriend feels absolutely insane. I told her I needed some time to think about it, and she said she understood, but that she really hoped I would say yes. She said it would mean the world to her to have me there, and that she knew it was a big ask, but our friendship meant everything to her. I've been going back and forth about this for weeks. I talked to my current boyfriend about it, and he thinks the whole situation is weird. He said he wouldn't be comfortable with me being that involved in my ex's wedding, even if I'm over him. He thinks it's inappropriate, and that Jessica is being selfish by putting me in this position. My sister agrees with my boyfriend. She said that while it's nice that Jessica wants me involved, it's not fair to ask me to be the maid of honor in these circumstances. She thinks Jessica should have chosen someone else for that role, and maybe just invited me as a regular guest. But part of me feels like I should do it. Jessica and I have been through everything together, and she was there for me during my breakup with Marcus. She never tried to pursue him while we were together, and she did ask for my blessing, even if it was after the fact. I'm also worried that if I say no, it will damage our friendship permanently. Jessica can be pretty dramatic, and I know she'll see this as me choosing to hold on to the past instead of supporting her future. She'll probably think I'm still hung up on Marcus, which I'm really not. The wedding is supposed to be next fall, so I have some time to decide, but Jessica is already starting to plan, and she needs to know about the bridal party. I keep going back and forth between thinking I should just suck it up and be a good friend, and thinking that this is way too weird and I should politely decline. I've also been wondering what the actual wedding would be like if I did agree to be the maid of honor. Would I have to help plan the bachelor and bachelorette parties? Would I be expected to give a speech about how perfect they are together? Would I have to help Jessica get ready while she talks about how much she loves Marcus? And what about the other people at the wedding? Everyone in our friend group knows that Marcus and I used to date. They're all going to be watching me to see how I react. They'll probably be whispering about how awkward the whole situation is. I don't know if I want to deal with that kind of scrutiny. I keep trying to imagine myself standing at the altar, watching them exchange vows. And I honestly can't picture it without feeling completely weird about it. It's not that I have feelings for Marcus anymore, because I really don't. But there's something so strange about being the maid of honor for your ex-boyfriend's wedding. My mum thinks I should do it because friendship should come first, and Jessica has been such an important part of my life. But my dad thinks the whole thing is inappropriate, and that Jessica shouldn't have put me in this position in the first place. I've been losing sleep over this decision because I know that whatever I choose is going to have consequences. If I say yes, I have to deal with all the weirdness of being involved in my ex's wedding. If I say no, I might lose my best friend forever. Jessica has been texting me every few days asking if I've made a decision yet, and I can tell she's getting anxious about it. She keeps saying things like, "I really need to know, so I can start planning, and I hope you're not overthinking this," but how can I not overthink this? This is not a normal situation, and it's not fair for her to act like. It should be easy for me to decide. I feel like she's being kind of selfish by even asking me to do this. There are so many other people she could choose as her maid of honor. At the same time, I do love Jessica, and I want her to be happy. I know that Marcus makes her happy, and I'm genuinely glad they found each other. But that doesn't mean I want to be front and center for their wedding celebration. I guess I'm just looking for some outside perspective on this. Has anyone else been in a similar situation? What would you do if your best friend asked you to be the maid of honor at her wedding to your ex? Am I being a bad friend if I say no? This whole thing has made me realize how complicated friendships can get when romantic relationships get involved. I never thought I'd be in a position like this, and I honestly don't know what the right answer is. So yeah, that's where I am right now. Still trying to figure out what to do and running out of time to decide. I know that whatever choice I make is going to change things between Jessica and me. I just hope I can make the right decision. Oh my god, this is such a messy situation. And honestly, I feel bad for everyone involved. Like, I get that Jessica wants her best friend by her side. But asking her to be the maid of honor for her ex's wedding is just so tone deaf. The fact that Jessica is acting like this should be an easy decision is what really bothers me. She's putting her friend in an impossible position and then making her feel guilty for needing time to think about it. That's not what good friends do. I also think it's telling that Jessica's boyfriend and family think this is inappropriate. They're seeing this from the outside and recognizing how weird it is. But Jessica is so caught up in wanting her perfect wedding that she's not considering how uncomfortable this makes everyone else. Honestly, if I were in this situation, I would probably say, no, being a regular guest is one thing, but being the maid of honor means you're actively participating in and celebrating their union. That's just too much to ask of someone in this situation. The friendship might take a hit, but a real friend would understand why this is difficult and wouldn't put you in this position in the first place. If Jessica can't see why this is problematic, then maybe the friendship isn't as solid as it seemed. Moving on to our next story, and this one's called My Roommate Keeps Using My Expensive Skincare Products and Replacing Them with Cheap Drugstore Versions. I know this might sound petty, but I'm genuinely at my wit's end here, and I need to know if I'm overreacting or if my roommate is completely out of line. So I live with my roommate, Kate, in a 2-bedroom apartment downtown. We've been living together for about 8 months now, and for the most part, things have been pretty good. We split everything evenly and generally respect each other's space. The issue started about 3 months ago when I noticed my skincare products were running out way faster than they should have been. I have a pretty extensive routine because I struggle with acne, and I've invested a lot of money into finding products that actually work for my skin. We're talking about some seriously expensive stuff here. My vitamin C serum costs $80, my retinol is $60, my moisturizer is $50. These aren't products I buy casually. I save up for them, and I use them very carefully to make them last as long as possible. At first I thought maybe I was just using more product than I realised, or that the bottles were smaller than I remembered, but then I started paying closer attention, and I definitely noticed that my products were disappearing much faster than they should have been. I mentioned it casually to Kate one day, and asked if she had been using any of my skincare stuff. She looked me right in the eye and said no, she had her own products, and wouldn't use mine without asking. I believed her because why would she lie about something like that? But the products kept disappearing at an alarming rate. My $80 vitamin C serum that should have lasted 3 months was gone in 6 weeks. My retinol that I had just bought was suddenly half empty after 2 weeks of use. Then one morning I was getting ready for work and I grabbed my moisturizer and immediately noticed something was off. The consistency was different and it didn't smell the same. I looked at the bottle more carefully and realised it was a completely different product. Someone had emptied out my expensive moisturizer and refilled the bottle with what appeared to be some cheap drugstore lotion. I was absolutely furious. Who does something like that? It's not just stealing, it's deceptive and sneaky. I confronted Kate immediately and showed her the bottle. She tried to act confused at first, but then she broke down and admitted that she had been using my products. She said her skin had been looking so much better since she started using them, and she couldn't afford to buy the expensive versions herself. I asked her about the fake refill, and she said she thought if she replaced the products with similar looking ones, I wouldn't notice. She said she was planning to eventually buy me the real products back, but she needed more time to save up the money. I was beyond angry. I told her that what she did was theft, and that she had violated my trust in the worst way. She had been lying to my face for months, while stealing hundreds of dollars worth of my products, and the fake refills could have damaged my skin. Kate started crying and saying she was sorry, and that she didn't think it was that big of a deal. She said skincare products are meant to be shared and that she didn't realise I would be so upset about it. She promised to pay me back for everything she used. But here's the thing, it's not just about the money, it's about the fact that she stole from me repeatedly and then lied about it for months. And the products she used were specifically chosen for my skin type and concerns. They might not even be good for her skin. I told her she needed to replace everything she had used with the actual products. Not cheap substitutes. She said she would, but that it might take her a few months to afford everything. I said that was her problem, not mine, and that she should have thought about that before stealing from me. Since then, things have been really tense between us. She keeps trying to act like everything is normal, but I can't trust her anymore. I've had to move all my expensive products into my bedroom, and I feel like I'm constantly watching to make sure she's not taking my stuff. She did replace a few of the products, but not all of them, and the ones she did replace were often not the exact same brand or formula. I told her that wasn't acceptable, and that she needed to replace them with the exact products she stole. Kate got defensive and said I was being unreasonable, and that the products she bought were just as good. I explained that I had specifically chosen those products for my skin, and that substitutes weren't the same thing. But she didn't seem to understand. The worst part is that she's been complaining to our mutual friends about how I'm being crazy about skincare products and making her feel bad for making a mistake. She's painting me as this materialistic person who cares more about expensive products than friendship. But it's not about the products being expensive. It's about her stealing from me and lying about it. If she had asked to borrow something, or if she had been honest about using my stuff, we could have worked something out, but instead she chose to be sneaky and deceptive. I'm honestly considering finding a new roommate because I don't think I can trust her anymore. If she's willing to steal my skincare products and lie about it, what else might she take? What other boundaries might she cross? My friends are split on this. Some think I'm overreacting and that roommates share things all the time. Others think what she did was completely inappropriate and that I have every right to be angry. I've been keeping a closer eye on all my stuff now, and I think she might have also been using my expensive shampoo and conditioner. The bottles seem to be going down faster than they should be, but I can't prove it. Kate keeps trying to smooth things over by being extra nice and offering to cook dinner or clean the apartment. But I feel like she's just trying to avoid dealing with the real issue, which is that she violated my trust. I'm also worried about what this means for our living situation. We have 6 months left on our lease, and I don't know if I can deal with this tension for that long. But finding a new place is expensive and complicated. The thing that really gets me is that she still doesn't seem to understand why what she did was so wrong. She keeps saying it was just skincare products and that I'm making a big deal out of nothing. But it's not about the products. It's about respect and honesty. I've started keeping a list of everything she owes me, and it's over $300 at this point. That's not pocket change for me, and I don't think it's fair that I should have to wait months for her to pay me back for stuff she stole. Am I being unreasonable here? Is this the kind of thing roommates should just work out between themselves, or is this a serious violation of trust? I honestly don't know how to move forward from this. This roommate situation is absolutely insane. And I'm honestly shocked that Kate thinks this is no big deal. Like, we're not talking about borrowing a cup of sugar here. These are expensive, specialized products that cost hundreds of dollars. The level of deception is what really gets me. She didn't just use the products, she systematically stole them and then tried to cover it up with fake replacements. That's not a mistake, that's a calculated scheme. And then she had the audacity to lie about it when directly confronted. I would be absolutely livid if someone did this to me. Skincare routines are so personal, and those products are chosen specifically for your skin type and concerns. Using someone else's expensive products without permission is bad enough, but replacing them with cheap knockoffs is just evil. The fact that she's now playing victim and telling their mutual friends that the poster is being unreasonable is classic manipulator behavior. She's trying to rewrite the narrative to make herself look like the victim when she's clearly the one who violated trust and boundaries. $300 is not a small amount of money, and the poster has every right to demand immediate replacement of the exact products that were stolen. Kate saying she needs months to pay it back is ridiculous. She should have thought about that before stealing. I honestly think this poster should consider this a relationship-ending violation. If Kate was willing to do something this calculated and deceptive over skincare products, what else would she be willing to steal or lie about? The trust is completely broken at this point. Plus the fact that she's trying to gaslight everyone by acting like the poster is being unreasonable shows she has zero remorse. Kate should be bending over backwards to make this right, not complaining to mutual friends about how mean her roommate is being. I would definitely start looking for a new living situation because this is only going to get worse. Kate has shown her true colours, and people like this don't change. They just get better at hiding their behaviour. Alright, next story. And this one's called My Husband. Told his family I can't have kids without asking me first. This happened 3 weeks ago, and I'm still processing everything. My husband David and I have been married for 5 years, and we've been trying to have a baby for the past 2 years. It's been a really difficult journey, and we've been through multiple rounds of testing and treatments. The doctors haven't been able to find anything definitively wrong with either of us, but we're still not pregnant. They've classified it as unexplained infertility, which is somehow even more frustrating than having a clear diagnosis. At least if we knew what was wrong, we could work on fixing it. Throughout this whole process, David and I have been very private about our struggles. We told our parents that we were trying, but we haven't shared the details about the medical appointments or the treatments. We both agreed that it felt too personal, and we didn't want to deal with constant questions and advice from family members. David's family is very close-knit, and they get together for dinner every Sunday. His mum, Linda, is wonderful, but she can be a bit nosy, and his sister Rachel has 3 kids and loves to give unsolicited parenting advice. We've been dreading the inevitable questions about when we're going to start having babies. For the past year, we've been deflecting these questions pretty successfully. We'd say things like, "We're not in a rush," or "We're enjoying being married first," but lately the questions have been getting more frequent and more direct. Linda started making comments about how she's not getting any younger and wants more grandchildren. 3 weeks ago, we were at Sunday dinner, and Linda brought up kids again. She said something about how David and Rachel had given her such beautiful grandchildren, and she was hoping for more. Soon Rachel chimed in and said that David and I had been married long enough, and it was time to get busy. David looked really uncomfortable, and I could tell he was getting frustrated with the constant pressure. Then Linda said something about how she had been the same age as me when she had David and that I shouldn't wait too long because fertility decreases with age. That's when David snapped. He said, "Mum, we've been trying for 2 years. Sarah can't have kids, so you need to stop asking." The entire table went silent, and I felt like I was going to throw up. I couldn't believe he had just announced our private medical information to his entire family. Linda immediately started apologising and saying she didn't know Rachel looked mortified, and started trying to change the subject. David's dad just stared at his plate and didn't say anything. I excused myself and went to the bathroom, where I cried for 10 minutes. When I came back out, David tried to act like nothing had happened, but the damage was already done. The rest of dinner was incredibly awkward, with everyone tiptoeing around the subject and speaking in hushed tones. I couldn't wait to leave. On the drive home, I told David how upset I was that he had shared such personal information without asking me first. He said he was sorry, but that he was tired of his family pressuring us, and he wanted them to back off. He said he didn't think it was that big of a deal since they're family. I tried to explain that it was a huge deal to me, and that our fertility struggles were private medical information that I should have had a say in sharing. He said he understood, but that what's done is done, and at least now his family would stop bothering us about kids. But that's not what happened at all. Instead of backing off, Linda started sending me articles about fertility treatments and success stories about women who got pregnant after years of trying. Rachel started texting me with advice about relaxation techniques and dietary changes that supposedly help with conception. David's aunt called me to tell me about her friend who adopted after struggling with infertility and how fulfilled her life became. His cousin reached out to share her own story about fertility treatments and offered to connect me with her doctor. Everyone suddenly became an expert on my reproductive health. I felt completely overwhelmed and violated. These were conversations I wasn't ready to have with these people. I barely knew how to process my own feelings about our situation, let alone field advice and questions from David's extended family. I told David that his revelation had made everything worse instead of better, and that now I felt like our private struggles were being discussed and analysed by everyone. He said his family was just trying to be supportive and helpful, and that I was being too sensitive. The worst part is that David's characterization of the situation wasn't even accurate. He told them that I can't have kids, which implies that the problem is definitely with me, when the truth is that we don't know why we're not getting pregnant. The doctors have said it could be either of us or both of us or just bad luck. Now his entire family thinks that I'm the reason we don't have children, and that David is this long-suffering husband dealing with an infertile wife. It's not fair to me, and it's not accurate, but the narrative has already been set. I tried talking to Linda about it and explaining that the situation is more complicated than David made it sound, but she just kept saying how sorry she was and how she never would have brought up kids if she had known. She seemed to think the problem was definitely with me, no matter what I said. The whole thing has put a huge strain on our marriage. I feel like David betrayed my trust and threw me under the bus to get his family off our backs. He doesn't seem to understand why I'm so upset and keeps saying that his family loves me and wants to help. But I don't want their help. I want our medical information to remain private between us and our doctors. I want to be able to process our struggles without feeling like I'm being watched and judged by his entire family. David suggested that maybe we should take a break from family dinners for a while, but that just makes me feel like I'm being punished for his mistake. Why should I have to avoid his family because he chose to share information that wasn't his to share? I've been going to therapy to help me cope with our fertility struggles, and my therapist says that David's actions were a violation of my privacy and autonomy. She's encouraging me to have a serious conversation with him about boundaries and trust, but every time I try to bring it up, David gets defensive and says that I'm making a bigger deal out of this than it needs to be. He says his family has already forgotten about it and moved on, but I know that's not true. Linda still sends me articles and Rachel still makes comments about how stress affects fertility. His family treats me differently now, like I'm fragile or broken, and I hate it. I feel like I can't just be David's wife anymore. I'm the woman who can't give him children. The fertility treatments are hard enough without having to deal with the added pressure and scrutiny from his family. I feel like I'm performing for an audience now. Instead of just focusing on my health and our relationship, I'm starting to wonder if David and I are on the same team anymore. It feels like he chose his family's comfort over my privacy and dignity, and I don't know how to get past that. The trust that we've built over 5 years of marriage feels damaged. Our fertility doctor says that stress can impact conception, and I'm definitely more stressed now than I was before. David's announcement, I feel like he sabotaged our chances of getting pregnant by creating this toxic environment around our struggles. I love David and I want our marriage to work, but I need him to understand how much he hurt me and to take responsibility for the consequences of his actions. So far, he's been unwilling to do either of those things. Has anyone else dealt with something like this? How do you rebuild trust after your partner shares private medical information without your consent? I'm feeling really lost and could use some perspective. Oh wow, this is such a massive betrayal of trust, and I'm honestly shocked that David doesn't see how wrong this was. Like, sharing someone's private medical information without their consent is not okay under any circumstances, even if they're family. The fact that he completely misrepresented the situation and made it sound like the fertility issues are definitely her fault is even worse. Now his entire family has this incorrect narrative about their marriage and her body, and that's going to be impossible to undo. I can't imagine how humiliated and violated she must have felt sitting at that dinner table while her private medical struggles were announced to everyone. And then to have all these people suddenly become experts on her fertility and start offering unsolicited advice. That's just torture. David saying she's being too sensitive is classic gaslighting behaviour. He violated her privacy, made her the scapegoat for their fertility struggles, and now he's minimising her completely valid feelings about it. That's not what partners do. The therapy suggestion is spot on because this is definitely something that needs professional help to work through. The trust in this marriage has been seriously damaged, and David needs to understand the gravity of what he did. I really hope she stands her ground on this because what David did was not okay, and he needs to take full responsibility for the consequences of his actions, not just brush it off like it's no big deal. Moving on to the next story, my boyfriend's ex-wife keeps sending me pictures of their kids doing normal kid things. I've been dating my boyfriend Jake for about 1.5 years now, and overall our relationship is really great. He's kind, funny, and we have a lot in common. The only ongoing issue we have is related to his ex-wife Monica and the way she communicates with him. Jake and Monica were married for 8 years and divorced 3 years ago. They have 2 kids together, Emma, who's 9, and Connor, who's 7. Jake has them every other weekend, plus one night during the week, and they seem like great kids. I really enjoy spending time with them. The problem is that Monica sends Jake constant updates about the kids throughout the week. I'm talking like 5 to 10 messages per day, with photos and videos of them doing completely mundane things. Like she'll send a picture of Emma eating breakfast, or Connor playing with toys, or them watching TV. At first I thought this was sweet, and that it showed they had a good co-parenting relationship. But as time has gone on, I've started to feel like the communication is excessive and inappropriate, especially since I've moved in with Jake 6 months ago. Yesterday was a perfect example. Monica sent Jake 12 separate messages throughout the day. The first one was at 7 in the morning with a photo of the kids getting ready for school. Then she sent a picture of Emma's outfit, another picture of Connor eating lunch, a video of Emma practicing piano, a photo of Connor's homework, and several more random updates. Jake always responds to these messages, usually with something like cute or thanks for sharing, and Monica will often respond back with more commentary about what the kids are doing or how their day is going. These text conversations can go on for 20 or 30 messages. I've tried talking to Jake about this and explaining that it makes me uncomfortable. He says that Monica is just being a good mum and keeping him involved in the kids' lives when they're not with him. He says he appreciates knowing what they're up to during the week. But I feel like there's a difference between important updates and constant commentary about every little thing the kids do. If Emma falls and scrapes her knee, or Connor has a bad day at school, those are things Jake should know about. But does he really need a play-by-play of their entire day? What really bothers me is that Jake seems to drop everything whenever Monica texts him. We could be in the middle of dinner or watching a movie, and his phone will buzz, and he'll immediately check it and respond. It feels like she has constant access to him and our time together. I've also noticed that Monica's messages often include personal commentary that doesn't seem necessary. For example, she'll say things like, "Emma misses you," or "Connor keeps asking when he gets to see Daddy again." It feels like she's trying to make Jake feel guilty about not being there. Last week, Monica sent a video of Connor crying because he missed his dad and wanted to call him Jake. Immediately called Connor to comfort him, which I understand, but I also felt like Monica was manipulating the situation to get Jake's attention. I suggested that maybe they could set up a regular call schedule with the kids so Jake could check in with them without needing constant text updates. Monica apparently didn't like this idea and told Jake that she prefers the spontaneous communication throughout the day. The thing that really gets to me is that Monica knows I live with Jake now and that we're building a life together, but she continues to act like she has unlimited access to him. She never acknowledges my presence or asks if it's a good time to call. I've tried to be understanding because I know co-parenting is complicated and I want Jake to have a good relationship with his kids, but I feel like Monica is using the children as an excuse to maintain an inappropriate level of contact with her ex-husband. Jake thinks I'm being jealous and unreasonable. He says that his kids will always be his priority and that Monica is just trying to keep him involved. I understand that his kids come first, but I don't think that means Monica should have complete access to him 24/7. I've started to dread Jake's phone buzzing because I know it's probably another random update from Monica. It's affecting my ability to relax and enjoy our time together because I feel like she's always inserting herself into our relationship. My friends think I'm being petty and that I should just accept that this is part of dating someone with kids, but I feel like there should be some boundaries around communication, especially since Jake and I are serious and living together. I love Jake and I want to make this work, but I'm starting to feel like I'm in a relationship with 3 people instead of 2. Monica's constant presence in our lives through these text messages is wearing me down. I've considered talking to Monica directly about this, but Jake has asked me not to get involved. He says it would make the co-parenting situation more complicated and that he'll handle it. But so far, nothing has changed. Am I being unreasonable here? Is this level of communication normal for divorced parents? Or do I have a right to expect some boundaries? I really don't know how to navigate this situation. This is such a tricky situation because on one hand, you want to support healthy co-parenting, but on the other hand, Monica's behaviour does seem excessive and boundary crossing. Like sending 12 messages in one day about mundane activities is definitely overkill. The fact that Jake drops everything to respond to these messages is what would really bother me too. It shows that Monica still has priority access to his attention, even when he's spending time with his girlfriend. That's not sustainable for a new relationship. I think the girlfriend has a valid point about the difference between important updates and constant commentary. Monica doesn't need to document every single moment of the kids' lives for Jake. She's using the children as an excuse to maintain an inappropriate level of contact. The manipulation tactics like sending videos of Connor crying and making guilt-inducing comments are also red flags. Monica might be struggling with the divorce and using the kids to keep Jake emotionally connected to her. Jake needs to step up here and set some boundaries with his ex-wife. The girlfriend shouldn't have to compete with constant interruptions from Monica for Jake's attention. That's not fair to anyone involved, including the kids who are being used as pawns. This whole situation needs better boundaries, and Jake needs to realise that protecting his new relationship doesn't mean he loves his kids any less. The real issue here is that Jake needs to understand that being a good father doesn't require him to be at Monica's beck and call 24/7. There's absolutely a way to stay involved in his kids' lives without letting his ex-wife monopolise his attention through constant, unnecessary updates. I think the girlfriend is being completely reasonable here. 12 messages in one day about normal kid activities is way too much, and it's clearly affecting their relationship. Jake needs to grow a spine and set some actual boundaries with Monica before he loses his girlfriend over this. Alright, moving on to the next story, and this one's called My Sister Borrowed My Car and Returned It with the Gas Tank. Empty and a huge dent. This happened last weekend, and I'm still furious about it, but my family thinks I'm overreacting, so I wanted to get some outside perspective on whether I'm being reasonable or not. So I have a 2019 Honda Civic that I saved up for 2 years to buy. It's not the fanciest car in the world, but it's mine, and I take really good care of it. I wash it regularly, get the oil changed on schedule, and I'm really careful about where I park it, because I don't want it getting dinged up. My sister Megan doesn't have a car right now, because hers broke down about a month ago, and she's been saving up to either fix it or buy a new one. In the meantime, she's been relying on public transportation and rides from friends and family. Last Friday night, Megan called me crying and said she had an emergency. Her friend Sarah, who lives about an hour away, had just broken up with her boyfriend and was having a panic attack. Megan said Sarah was threatening to hurt herself and that she needed to get to her immediately, but had no way to get there. I was already in my pyjamas getting ready for bed, but Megan was hysterical and begging me to let her borrow my car. She said it was a life or death situation and that she would be super careful with it and have it back by morning. I felt terrible for Sarah, and I could tell Megan was genuinely scared for her friend. Against my better judgment, I said yes. I gave Megan my keys and told her to please be careful and to text me when she got there safely. And when she was heading back home, she promised she would and said she owed me big time for this. Megan texted me around midnight, saying she had made it to Sarah's place and that her friend was okay, but that she was going to stay the night to make sure Sarah didn't do anything impulsive. I said that was fine and told her to drive safely in the morning. Saturday afternoon rolled around and I still hadn't heard from Megan. I texted her asking when she was planning to bring my car back, and she said she was still with Sarah and would probably be back that evening. I was starting to get annoyed because I had plans that night and needed my car. Around 7 p.m, Megan finally showed up with my car, and I immediately noticed something was wrong. There was a huge dent in the front passenger side door, and the paint was scraped off. I was absolutely livid. I asked her what happened, and she said she had no idea. She claimed the dent wasn't there when she parked the car, and that someone must have hit it while it was parked overnight. I asked her where she had parked, and she said it was on a busy street, because Sarah's apartment complex doesn't have visitor parking. I was already upset about the damage, but then I went to drive somewhere and realised the gas tank was completely empty. I had filled it up earlier that week, and it had been 3/4 full. When I lent it to Megan, I asked her about it, and she said she hadn't noticed the gas gauge. She said she would pay for the damage to be fixed and would give me money for gas, but that it might take her a few weeks to come up with the money. I told her that wasn't acceptable and that she needed to take responsibility. Immediately, Megan started crying and saying that she was already dealing with a lot of stress because of Sarah's situation and that I was being unreasonable. She said accidents happen and that's why people have insurance. I told her that I wasn't going to file an insurance claim for damage that she caused. I called a few body shops to get estimates for the repair, and the cheapest quote I got was $800. The most expensive was over $1,200. I showed these estimates to Megan, and she said there was no way she could afford that much money right away. She suggested that maybe we could find a cheaper place to fix it, or that maybe the dent wasn't that noticeable, and I could just live with it. I was shocked that she would even suggest I should just accept having a damaged car, because she couldn't afford to fix it. I told her she had 2 weeks to come up with the money for the repair, or I was going to take her to small claims court. She said I was being dramatic, and that family shouldn't threaten to sue each other over accidents. When I told my parents about what happened, they said I was being too harsh, and that Megan was already going through a tough time. They said that the important thing was that Sarah was safe, and that the car damage was just material stuff that could be fixed. My mum suggested that maybe I should just file an insurance claim and not worry about getting the money from Megan. She said it would be easier and less stressful for everyone. I explained that filing a claim would make my insurance rates go up, and that it wasn't fair for me to be penalised for damage I didn't cause. My dad said that sometimes you have to make sacrifices for family, and that holding this over Megan's head wasn't going to help anyone. He said I should be proud that my sister was such a good friend, and that she was willing to help someone in need. But I feel like everyone is missing the point. Yes, it's great that Megan helped her friend, but that doesn't excuse the fact that she returned my car damaged and empty. She borrowed something valuable from me and didn't take proper care of it. I'm also suspicious about her story that someone hit the car while it was parked. The damage looks like it could have been from backing into something or scraping against a pole. It doesn't look like damage from another car hitting it. When I pressed Megan for more details about where exactly she parked and whether there were any witnesses, she got defensive and said she didn't remember all the details because she was focused on helping Sarah. I think she knows exactly what happened to my car, but she's lying about it because she doesn't want to take full responsibility. The fact that she's trying to minimise the damage and suggest I should just live with it makes me even more angry. I've been driving around with this huge ugly dent for a week now, and every time I look at it, I get frustrated. I take pride in keeping my car in good condition, and now it looks like a piece of junk because of Megan's carelessness. My friends think I should definitely make Megan pay for the repairs, and that my family's being unreasonable by expecting me to just absorb the cost. They said that borrowing someone's car comes with the responsibility of returning it in the same condition. I've been going back and forth about whether to actually follow through on my threat to take her to court. I don't really want to sue my own sister, but I also don't think I should have to pay for damage that she caused. Megan has been avoiding me since our argument, and when I do see her at family gatherings, she acts like nothing happened. She hasn't mentioned the money for repairs or even apologised again for what happened. I'm starting to think that maybe I should just cut my losses and pay for the repairs myself, rather than deal with all this family drama. But part of me feels like that would be letting her get away with being irresponsible and dishonest. The whole situation has made me realise that I can't trust Megan with my belongings and that I need to be more careful about doing favours for family members. I love my sister, but this whole experience has really damaged our relationship. Am I being unreasonable for expecting her to pay for the damage she caused? Or should I just accept that this is the cost of helping family and move on? I honestly don't know what the right thing to do is here. This story makes me so mad because Megan is clearly lying about what happened to the car, and the whole family's enabling her irresponsible behaviour. Like the damage description sounds exactly like she backed into something or scraped a pole, and now she's trying to cover it up. The fact that she returned it with an empty gas tank just shows how little respect she has for her sister's property. That's basic courtesy. When you borrow someone's car and return it with the same amount of gas or more. $800 is not pocket change, and expecting someone to just absorb that cost because family's ridiculous. If anything, family should be more respectful of each other's belongings, not less. The parents are being completely unreasonable by pressuring her to just file an insurance claim and let it go. That would raise her rates and cost her money in the long run, all because Megan can't take responsibility for her actions. I would absolutely take her to small claims court if she doesn't pay up. The fact that she's avoiding the conversation and acting like nothing happened shows she has no intention of making this right. This is exactly why I never lend my car to anyone anymore. People think they can be careless with other people's property and then act like the owner is being unreasonable for expecting them to fix what they broke. Moving on to our next story, and this one's called My Co-worker Keeps Microwaving Fish in the Office Break Room, and it's making everyone miserable. I work in a mid-sized accounting firm with about 30 people, and we have a shared break room with a microwave refrigerator and some tables for eating lunch. Most people are pretty considerate about what they bring to heat up, but we have one co-worker who's making everyone's life miserable. Her name is Janet, and she's been with the company for about 5 years, so she's not new and should definitely know better. But for the past 3 months, she has been bringing fish to work and microwaving it in the break room almost every single day. I'm not talking about subtle fish like a tuna sandwich. I'm talking about full-on salmon fillets, tilapia with sauce, leftover fish, curry, and other intensely smelly seafood. The smell is absolutely overwhelming, and it lingers in the break room for hours after she's done eating. The first time it happened, I figured it was just a one-time thing and didn't say anything, but when it became a daily occurrence, I started to realise this was going to be a problem. The smell is so strong that it makes me nauseous, and I know I'm not the only one. I've seen other co-workers walk into the break room and immediately turn around and leave when they smell the fish. Some people have started eating at their desks or going out for lunch just to avoid the break room when Janet is there. The worst part is that Janet seems completely oblivious to how her food choices are affecting everyone else. She'll heat up her fish and then sit there eating it while everyone else is trying to choke down their lunch in this overwhelming fishy smell. Last week I was heating up my leftover pasta when Janet came in with a container of what looked like fish stew. The smell when she opened the microwave was so intense that I actually gagged. I had to throw away my lunch because I couldn't eat it in that environment. I decided to say something to her politely. I said, "Hey, Janet, I don't want to be rude, but the fish you've been bringing for lunch has a really strong smell that's been bothering some people. Do you think you could maybe save the fish meals for dinner at home?" Janet looked at me like I had insulted her mother. She said that she has every right to eat whatever she wants for lunch, and that if people don't like it, they can eat somewhere else. She said she's been bringing healthy meals, and she's not going to change her diet because other people are picky I tried to explain that it wasn't about being picky, but about the fact that the smell is so overwhelming, it's affecting everyone's ability to enjoy their lunch. She said that was ridiculous and that people just need to get over it. After that conversation, Janet actually started bringing even more pungent fish dishes. It's like she was doing it out of spite. I swear she brought some kind of fermented fish sauce dish that made the entire floor smell like low tide. Several other co-workers have approached me asking if I've talked to management about this yet because they're too uncomfortable to say anything themselves. Some people have started referring to the break room as the aquarium and making jokes about needing scuba gear to eat lunch. I finally decided to talk to our office manager, Lisa, about the situation. I explained what was happening and asked if there were any policies about what kinds of food people could bring to work. Lisa said she'd look into it and talk to Janet. A few days later, Lisa sent out an email to the whole office about being considerate with food choices in shared spaces. It didn't mention Janet by name, but it did say that employees should avoid heating up foods with strong odours that might disturb others. Janet was furious. She came up to me and accused me of getting her in trouble with management. She said I was being petty and that she was going to file a complaint with HR about harassment. I was shocked that she thought asking her to be considerate was harassment, but the email didn't actually stop Janet from bringing fish. She continued her daily fish routine, and now she was doing it with an attitude, like she was proving a point. Every time she used the microwave, she would make comments about how some people are just too sensitive. The situation escalated last week when Janet brought what I can only describe as the most pungent fish dish I have ever encountered. The smell was so bad that it actually made one of my co-workers throw up in the bathroom. That's when several people, including myself, decided to go to HR together. We explained the situation and said that Janet's food choices were creating a hostile work environment. HR said they would investigate and talk to Janet about finding a compromise. Yesterday, HR called a meeting with Janet and asked her to consider eating her fish meals at home or finding alternative lunch options. Janet refused and said that she was being discriminated against for her cultural food choices, which was completely ridiculous. Janet is not from a culture where fish curry is a traditional dish. She's just someone who likes seafood and refuses to acknowledge how her choices affect other people. She's trying to make this about discrimination when it's really about basic courtesy. HR ended up creating a new policy that employees should avoid heating foods with strong odours in the shared microwave. They suggested that people with aromatic meals could eat them cold or use the outdoor patio area. Janet is still refusing to comply, and now she's talking about getting a lawyer because she thinks her rights are being violated. The whole situation has become so much bigger than it needed to be, just because she won't accept that some foods aren't appropriate for shared office spaces. I feel bad that it's come to this, but I also don't think it's fair that 30 people should have to suffer because one person refuses to be considerate. The break room is supposed to be a shared space where everyone can enjoy their lunch, not Janet's personal seafood restaurant. Some of my co-workers think I should have just minded my own business and dealt with the smell, but I don't think that's reasonable when it's affecting everyone's ability to use a shared space that we all pay for through our work. The whole thing has made the office atmosphere really tense and awkward. Janet barely speaks to me now, and I know she's been complaining about me to other people, but I still think I did the right thing by speaking up. Has anyone else dealt with a co-worker like this? How do you handle someone who refuses to be considerate in shared spaces? I'm hoping this new policy will resolve things, but I have a feeling Janet is going to keep pushing back. This Janet person sounds absolutely insufferable, and the fact that she's now claiming discrimination is just ridiculous. Like, we're not talking about someone's cultural heritage being attacked, we're talking about basic office etiquette. The fact that she actually escalated her fish bringing after being asked politely to stop shows, this was never about her lunch preferences. It was about her need to assert dominance and prove that nobody could tell her what to do. Making someone throw up with your food choices and then refusing to modify your behaviour is just sociopathic. At that point, Janet clearly gets some kind of power trip from making everyone else miserable. I'm glad HR finally stepped in, because this was affecting everyone's ability to use a shared space. They pay for access to that break room through their work, and Janet was essentially monopolising it with her fish experiments. The fact that she's threatening to get a lawyer over a reasonable request to not stink up the office shows she's completely lost touch with reality. I hope they document everything, because Janet sounds like the type to escalate this into something even more ridiculous. This is exactly the kind of person who ruins office culture for everyone else, because they refuse to accept that shared spaces require shared consideration. Let's move on to the next story here, and this one's called My Girlfriend Wants Me to Choose Between Her and My Dog. I've been with my girlfriend Emma for about 8 months now, and things have been going really well overall. We get along great, we have fun together, and I can see a future with her, but we've hit a major snag that's threatening our entire relationship. The issue is my dog Max, who is a 3-year-old golden retriever. I adopted him from a rescue when he was 6 months old, and he's been my best friend ever since. Max is well-trained, friendly, and honestly, one of the best dogs I've ever known. When Emma and I first started dating, he seemed fine with Max. She would pet him when she came over, and even said she thought he was cute. But as our relationship got more serious, her attitude toward Max started to change. It started with little comments about dog hair on the furniture, or Max needing a bath. She would make faces when Max would greet her at the door, or ask me to put him in another room when we were watching movies. I thought maybe she just wasn't used to having a dog around, since she's never had pets growing up. I tried to be accommodating by vacuuming more often and keeping Max groomed, but nothing seemed to make Emma happy. About 3 months ago, Emma started suggesting that maybe I should consider rehoming Max. She said that as our relationship got more serious, we needed to think about our future together, and that a dog would complicate things, like travel, and eventually moving in together. I was shocked that she would even suggest getting rid of Max. I told her that Max wasn't going anywhere, and that any future we built together would include him. She said she understood, but I could tell she wasn't happy about it. Since then, Emma has been increasingly critical of everything Max does. If he barks at a delivery truck, she complains about the noise. If he sheds on her clothes, she acts like it's the end of the world. If he wants attention while we're hanging out, she gets annoyed and calls him needy. Last month, Emma started refusing to come to my place altogether. She said she didn't want to deal with dog hair and slobber, and that if I wanted to see her, I needed to come to her apartment. This meant I was driving across town every time we hung out, and I couldn't bring Max to the park or on walks like I used to. 2 weeks ago, Emma sat me down and said we needed to have a serious conversation about our future. She said that she's been thinking about it a lot, and she doesn't see how we can build a life together with Max in the picture. She said that dogs are expensive, time-consuming and limiting, and that she doesn't want to deal with the responsibility of pet ownership. She said that if I really loved her and wanted our relationship to work, I would consider finding Max a new home. I told her absolutely not, and that Max was a part of my family. Long before she came along, I said that anyone who wanted to be with me needed to accept that Max and I were a package deal. Emma got upset and said I was choosing a dog over our relationship. She said that she felt like I cared more about Max than I did about her, and that she was tired of competing with a pet for my attention. I tried to explain that it wasn't about choosing between them, but about the fact that Max was my responsibility, and I made a commitment to him when I adopted him. I said that I would never ask her to get rid of something important to her. But Emma said it wasn't the same thing because Max is just an animal, and our relationship is between two humans. She said that normal people don't let pets interfere with their romantic relationships, and that I was being immature. The conversation escalated into a huge fight where Emma said some really hurtful things about Max. She called him smelly and annoying and said that she didn't understand why I was so attached to what she called just a dog. I was furious and told her that if she couldn't accept Max, then maybe we weren't compatible after all. She started crying and said she didn't want to break up, but that something had to change. Since then, we've been in this weird limbo where we're still together, but the tension is constant. Emma keeps making passive-aggressive comments about Max, and I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, trying to keep them both happy. Last week, Emma gave me an ultimatum. She said that she's tired of this situation and that I need to make a choice. It's either her or the dog, but she's not willing to continue a relationship where she has to share my attention with a pet. She said that if I choose Max over her, it will prove that I'm not ready for a serious adult relationship. She said that most people would choose their human partner over a pet, and that my hesitation shows where my priorities really are. I've been losing sleep over this because I do love Emma, and I don't want to lose her, but I also can't imagine giving up Max, who has been with me through some really difficult times in my life. He's not just a pet to me, he's family. My friends are split on this. Some think that Emma is being unreasonable, and that anyone who really loved me would accept Max. Others think that if I'm serious about Emma, I should consider what she's asking. My sister thinks Emma is showing her true colours, and that this is a red flag about how she handles compromise and empathy. She says that someone who would ask me to get rid of my dog probably isn't the right person for me. But my mum thinks that relationships require sacrifice, and that maybe I should consider whether keeping Max is worth losing what could be the love of my life. She says that dogs don't live forever, but a good partner could be with me for decades. I've been trying to find a compromise, like maybe Max could stay with my parents sometimes, or we could hire a dog walker to give Emma and me more alone time. But Emma says that's not enough, and that she wants Max completely out of the picture. The whole situation is tearing me apart because I feel like I'm being forced to choose between two things I love. I never thought I would be in a position where someone would ask me to choose between them and my dog. Emma has been pressuring me for an answer and says that if I don't decide soon, she's going to make the decision for me. By ending the relationship, I feel like I'm being manipulated, but I also don't want to lose her. Has anyone else been in a situation like this? How do you choose between a partner and a pet that you love? I honestly don't know what the right answer is, and I'm running out of time to figure it out. This Emma person is absolutely awful, and honestly, this guy should run as fast as he can in the opposite direction. Anyone who would demand that you get rid of your dog is showing you exactly who they are as a person. The fact that she's calling Max just an animal and acting like loving your pet is immature is such a massive red flag. This woman has zero empathy and is basically testing how much control she can have over this guy's life. Max was there first and will love this guy unconditionally. Emma is proving that her love comes with conditions and ultimatums. That's not real love, that's manipulation. I guarantee if he gives up Max for her, she'll find something else to control next. Maybe his friends or his hobbies or his family. This is just the beginning of her trying to isolate him from everything he cares about. The answer here is so obvious it hurts. Choose the dog. Emma has shown her true colours, and they're ugly. Max will never betray him or make him choose between love and ultimatums. This guy needs to realise that the right person for him would love Max too, or at least respect his bond with his dog. Emma is not that person, and she never will be. Alright, next story, and this one is called My Roommate's Boyfriend. Has been living here for 2 months without paying rent. I rent a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate Ashley, and we've been living together for about a year now. When we first moved in, we agreed to split everything 50-50, including rent, utilities, groceries and cleaning supplies. The arrangement has worked out pretty well for the most part. Ashley is generally clean and respectful, and we get along fine as roommates. She has a boyfriend named Tyler who would come over occasionally, and I never had a problem with him staying over sometimes. About 3 months ago, Tyler started staying over more frequently. At first it was just weekends, but then it became 3 or 4 nights a week. I didn't say anything at first because I figured it was temporary and didn't want to be the controlling roommate. But then Tyler's overnight stays became even more frequent, and I noticed that he was leaving his clothes and personal items around the apartment. He had a toothbrush in our bathroom, his shampoo in the shower, and even started keeping food in our refrigerator. 2 months ago, I realised that Tyler was essentially living here full time. He was here every single night. And during the day when Ashley was at work, I would come home and find him on our couch watching TV or using our kitchen. I tried to bring this up casually with Ashley and asked if Tyler was planning to move in officially. She said no, that he was just staying over more because his lease was ending and he was looking for a new place. She said it was temporary, but Tyler never seemed to be actively looking for an apartment, and his temporary stay has now lasted 2 months. During this time, our utility bills have gone up significantly because there's an extra person using electricity, water, and gas constantly. Tyler also eats our food without replacing it and uses our internet and streaming services. He's basically living here as a third roommate, but without contributing financially to any of the household expenses. Last month I sat Ashley down and explained that I was uncomfortable with the current arrangement. I said that if Tyler was going to be living here full time, he needed to contribute to rent and utilities. She said she understood and would talk to him about it, but nothing changed. Tyler continued living here without paying anything, and Ashley kept making excuses about how he was still technically just staying over and would be getting his own place soon. I started keeping track of Tyler's presence and realised that he had been here for 43 out of the last 45 nights. At that point, he's clearly a resident, not a guest, but Ashley refused to acknowledge this. The situation came to a head 2 weeks ago when I got our electric bill, and it was almost double what it usually is. I showed Ashley the bill and told her that we needed to figure out a way to split it 3 ways, since Tyler was using electricity too. Ashley got defensive and said that Tyler barely uses any electricity and that the increase was probably due to the weather. She said I was being petty about trying to charge her boyfriend. For utilities, I explained that it wasn't about being petty, but about fairness. Tyler has been living here for 2 months, using our utilities, eating our food, and taking up space without contributing anything to the household expenses. Ashley said that Tyler is her guest and that guests don't pay rent. I pointed out that guests don't live somewhere for 2 months and that at some point a guest becomes a resident. We got into a big argument where Ashley accused me of trying to control her relationship and said that I was being unreasonable. She said that Tyler would be getting his own place soon and that I just needed to be patient a little longer. I told her that 2 months was already way more patience than most roommates would show, and that either Tyler starts contributing financially or he needs to find somewhere else to stay. Ashley said I was giving her an ultimatum and that it wasn't fair. Since that conversation, things have been really tense between Ashley and me. Tyler is still here every night, and Ashley has been cold and distant. She's been making passive-aggressive comments about how some people don't understand what it means to be supportive of relationships. Yesterday, I found Tyler doing laundry, using our washer and dryer and our detergent. When I asked him about it, he said Ashley told him it was fine. I told him that, actually, it wasn't fine, and that he needed to ask me before using my stuff since I pay for half of everything in this apartment. Tyler got an attitude with me and said that Ashley lives here too, and she gave him permission. I explained that major decisions about guests and household resources need to be agreed upon by both roommates, not just one. He said I was being dramatic and that it's just laundry. I told him that it's not just laundry, it's the principle that he's been living here for free while I've been subsidising his presence through higher utility bills and shared resources. Tyler actually had the nerve to tell me that if I didn't like the arrangement, I could move out. I was shocked that someone who doesn't even pay rent here would tell me to leave my own apartment. I immediately texted Ashley about Tyler's comment, and she said I was exaggerating and that Tyler didn't mean it that way. She said I was looking for reasons to cause drama and that I needed to chill out. But I'm not looking for drama. I'm just tired of being taken advantage of. I didn't sign up to have a third roommate, especially one who doesn't contribute anything, but feels entitled to use everything. I've been looking at our lease agreement, and it clearly states that guests can only stay for 7 consecutive days, or 14 days total per month. Tyler has violated this rule repeatedly, but Ashley doesn't seem to care. I'm considering talking to our landlord about this, but I don't want to get Ashley in trouble or create more problems. I just want Tyler to either start paying his share or find his own place. My friends think I should give Ashley and Tyler an ultimatum. Either he starts paying rent within 2 weeks, or I'm moving out. They say that Ashley is taking advantage of my patience and that Tyler is basically stealing from me. But moving would be a huge hassle and expense, and I actually like living here. Aside from this situation, I don't want to uproot my life, because Ashley won't enforce reasonable boundaries with her boyfriend. I've also considered just talking to Tyler directly about contributing financially, but Ashley has made it clear that she doesn't want me discussing money issues with him. She says it's between her and him. The whole situation has made me realise that living with someone who has a serious relationship can be really complicated. I never anticipated having to deal with an unofficial third roommate who doesn't respect boundaries. Ashley keeps saying that Tyler will get his own place eventually, but it's been 2 months and he hasn't even looked at apartments. As far as I can tell, I think he's perfectly happy living here for free. I'm at the point where I'm considering breaking my lease and finding a new place, because this living situation has become untenable. I shouldn't have to deal with someone else's boyfriend treating my home like his personal crash pad. Has anyone else dealt with a roommate's partner essentially moving in without permission? How do you handle someone who refuses to acknowledge that their guest has become a permanent resident? The fact that Tyler had the audacity to tell the actual rent-paying tenant to move out shows exactly what kind of entitled person he is. He's been living there for free and now thinks he has authority over who gets to stay. I would absolutely give them an ultimatum. Tyler pays his share within 2 weeks or moves out. If Ashley wants to subsidise her boyfriend's living expenses, she can do it somewhere else, not at her roommate's expense. This is exactly why I would never live with someone who has a serious relationship, because situations like this are so predictable. The girlfriend always sides with the boyfriend, and the roommate gets stuck paying for an extra person.